couple we're going to jump to an Amazon Prime movie that I think it got a limited release to some theaters, maybe not, but it's called Black as Night, which is a vampire movie taking place in New Orleans. And
Nolans.
I know Jason's going to have his whole thought process on that. That's the reason why I said it that way. But Black as Night is got the blackest budget I've ever seen in my life in a movie in a very long time. And it being on Amazon kind of offended me, so made me look it up and realize that Amazon did buy this movie, did not make this movie. Thank God, because if Amazon, you giving us budgets like this, I'd have got rid of my subscription after that. But with all that being said, the creativity in this movie excited me because you could tell this isn't a highly budget film from the actors, from the sets, from the CGI and all that. But it to go to your argument about Halloween Kills, if you guys haven't heard that review, it's further up, or go look at that clip for us for Halloween reviews. This does, I think, what you talk about. It gives a sense of realism and a sense of actuality to a movie that is dealing with the most supernatural thing you could deal with, which is vampires. And it is fucking great. The whole stuff with Babineau's backstory, when they do that side piece, and the creativity they do to show that story, great. The mythos of the vampires in this are just so good. It's old school mythos for vampires, guys, but not even old school mythos of vampires. It makes me so mad that Marvel, because they probably didn't have the people in the right seats there, didn't think of this reason for Blade. Like Blade should have been what these vampires are talking about when it comes to that melanin being magic, baby, and how that affects with the sun. Like, that should have been Blade's mythos right there. Like, that would have been missed opportunity with Marvel because they probably did not know or have anybody
because the white guys
around.
fucking wrote that shit. They don't know nothing about nothing.
Right.
No offense to all the white people out there. I'm sorry. It's just that you don't know anything about black people. You just
right. Especially that. Now, shout out to them for at least giving us a black vampire. But anyway, with that being said, also, too, Shorty wasn't even that black, too. The way they was
I know!
She wasn't even that black, dark. Not at all. So I thought that was kind of hilarious,
too. Because... like she's from the fucking fix of Africa, and she ain't even that dark.
Right, but it's funny because, me and you have both grown up in communities where people be bugging about getting darker. I love the opening scene. Like, why you not in the sun? I don't want to get dark. Like, kudos. That shows me that somebody that looked like us or either associated with us was writing that movie, because that is something that we only talk about in our own selves and around the people that we're comfortable with, about our shades and complexions and being out in the sun and the stigma of being too dark or too black and how that affects and all that. So with all that being said, Keith David, man, can we just
bronze him and make him the king of whatever?
Yes. Like, how is this guy this great in everything he does? And we just, like, Hollywood should be knocking at his door to get him every single movie that we could ever get him in. Keith David is a gem. If people don't know who Keith David is, look up The Thing. Look up Goliath from fucking this. He's They
Live.
Yeah, I'm about to say They Live with the epic fight scene. That's probably the best fight scene of all time in all cinema. We can go through the list. Just Keith David. Keith David. The president for Rick and Morty. He voices the president, the black president of Rick and Morty. So guys, you guys have probably been in, around, or seen something he's in and just never knew it because he doesn't get the spotlight as much. But on this one, especially the end, he gets the spotlight, and it's fucking amazing. He just chews up scenery. But I guess I feel like Jeremy right next. I haven't even talked about the movie for sure. This movie, it is scary in parts. But until I realized that it wasn't a highly funded movie, it lost some of its appeal. That opening scene where he's like, hey, get away from blah, 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 and you just see the eyes. Yeah. You see the eyes, great. Her, when she's walking home, and she's telling help, and he gets up, and you just see that. They do great work with shadowing and lights in this movie for a movie that isn't highly budgeted. They did a really good job with all the things they could do. The stuff with her mother, I thought was very cool because I know a lot of people in our community deal with addiction and drugs, and that family never gave up on her. And for her to lose her mother the way she did, it embodied her mythos very, very well because they set up a situation where this was a family that loved their mother, and this was almost like they lost the bedrock to their family, and the father is kind of freeballing, which he was a terrible actor, but he was freeballing here, and he got his kids and his work.
Acting's
thought
not
that
so
was
great in
all
this
great.
movie.
Yeah. Oh, not even close. Chris could go kick rocks. But
Oh
anyway,
my god.
it just has a lot going on. I'm gonna let Jason go because I'm just gonna keep talking about the awesome stuff in here. And then the final speech by Keith David about being a vampire, and there's so much
And
in this movie
seeing
because I
it,
keep
like,
going. It because
I
even
feel
the
like, you know,
Mhm.
like people say Killmonger is right. I feel like this dude was right. I mean, like,
Absolutely.
you know, obviously he's going about this the wrong way, but like he has a perspective on the world that, you know, no one else has. And he's like, I've seen the riots, I've seen it happen over and over and over
Yep.
again. And it's like, we got to do something about this. But yeah, it was good.
And then even I love the dichotomy of the American black versus the African deciphered black. Like, even it's so much in this movie that you could tell the Melanin is Magic wrote this because it's so many things you could pick up on and you could take, which I think are just amazing. But Jason, I'm gonna lay my time
All
down.
right.
I'm gonna proceed the rest of my time to
Can
let
I
you
have my
go
time?
and have fun. You have fun with this. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to start. I feel like we already kind of get decisions that we both kind of like this movie, but I'm going to start with some of the negatives. And this is
Yeah.
one of the biggest negatives for me. And this is more like a nitpicky thing, but it's still kind of like I hate when I see this because in other movies that have, let's say, brighter casts, they would find a way to make this work. But
Yeah.
I hate when you have, especially when you have a movie set in a city with a very strong dialect or a very strong
Mhm.
I can't even think of the word right now. Fucking
The accent.
accent, yeah.
Yeah.
That no one has that fucking accent. Like
Mhm.
this is fucking New Orleans, man. This has a very storied and long history of having this accent. Like you can't find this accent anywhere else. And if you go to see movies about Boston, motherfuckers talk like they from Boston, right?
Yep.
If you have a
Yep.
movie
Yep.
about
Yep.
fucking New York, motherfuckers talk like they're from New York. It's not really like
Yep.
Atlanta where you only have like a certain section of the city that has a very distinct accent where everybody else is
Mhm.
transplants. We all sound like me. But in New
Yeah.
Orleans, they got that fucking accent. And these people are supposed to have been there. At least this girl is supposed to have been there since Katrina. Her fans supposed to have been there before Katrina. And she ain't got no accent. Chris ain't got no accent. Ain't none of them got
Mhm.
no accent. Like,
Mhm.
come on, y'all need to do better than this, okay? Like, come on, baby. I should be able to barely understand these people, okay?
Especially Chris. Especially Chris.
Especially Chris. Number two or letter two. I feel like they could have. And I know this movie had a limited budget. They probably had limited time to shoot a lot of this stuff. I felt like they could have made Babineau more prominent, or at least Keith David's character more prominent in the story. You kind of only see
Mhm.
him a couple of times. He's kind of like really out of focus and out of frame. You hear his voice,
Mhm.
but you don't really actually meet him until like almost the end of the movie. Like
It
I
was
remember
almost like
looking
they
at,
wanted it to be a reveal, and they didn't do a good
yeah,
job of making it a reveal.
they didn't make it a reveal, and then you like with the African vampires, they didn't even show up until 20 minutes to the end of the movie. And I feel like
Mhm.
that could have been something that I wanted to see more of. Like they could have had that, like that rivalry of between the two clans be more apparent from the beginning, and then like this young girl and her family just getting kind of caught up in the mix. Uh, those are really only my only complaints. The acting is, I mean, this is a low budget movie. The acting is not the best. The pacing is not the best, but god damn it if I didn't love it.
Yeah,
Like there
right.
this movie tackles something that I don't think I've seen very many movies talk about, especially movies that are made for black people or about black people talk about since like The Color Purple, which is colorism. Like
Mhm.
I can't remember really it, and I've seen a lot of movies, guys, that people talk
Mhm.
about, you know, colorism. Like her brother keeps calling her Wesley Snipes, which I'm sorry, I have referred to other black people as Wesley Snipes as well. We do it.
Yes.
It's
Or
terrible. Oh
So Black
yeah,
You're Purple,
yeah. You know,
Midnight, Darkness.
yeah.
Yeah. We go through the list. Yes.
We can go to the list, and it's a dumb thing. It's a legacy of white supremacy that we do this because you know obviously we have in our head that the darker your skin color, the uglier you are. The girl in this movie ain't that dark either.
Mhm.
Like she probably between me and Jason over here, so she ain't
Yeah.
that dark. But I love that they tackled this. I love that the African vampires said, "Your skin is beautiful. You have, if you were one of us, you would be powerful. Like you
Yep.
would have been the most beautiful queen in my hometown ever. Like people would have fucking burned alive in the sun looking to be like you." And I thought that was like fucking. I want to give that fucking vampire a hug. And honestly, the fact that this dude is like, yo, we can, the more melanated skin is the sunlight doesn't infect us, and we don't even really drink blood all that often. It's actually like, I'd be like, oh, sign me up for being a vampire, guys. Come on.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, this doesn't sound so bad at all, actually. And then like Keith David's like, the way you look, young, you could be a day walker by tomorrow. And I'm like, damn.
Yep.
Yeah, like it's a B movie. It's definitely a little schlocky at times, a little bit on the nose, especially with the whole I kind of felt like the whole Katrina, like I know that is a story. I mean, that's a big problem in New Orleans. This is a big problem everywhere where, after disaster, the black neighborhoods, neighborhoods of color don't get rebuilt, and if they are getting rebuilt, they're getting gentrified rather than rebuilt. And I know, and it's New Orleans is still happening, and I kind of like, yeah, it's been 15 years since Katrina, but it's like, yeah, I know that people are still hurting, even though that storm happened 15 years ago, So, but otherwise, this was fun. This is a fun one.
No,
I really wish I could see more of the vampire hunting vampires because they're fucking. I don't even know what their sticks are called, but they were fucking badass. Fucking badass. Like they should have put more of that. In fact, they could have cut the girl story out and just had them do their thing, and I would have been fine.
Look, if there's any week that Jaren needed to be sick, this is it. Because the poofing, I mean, let's be keeping it real. I know me and you both got Buffy the Vampire vibes when they would poof out, and I was like, "Oh yes!" Like
she even mentioned it to her because she was talking to her. So it's like, "Who do I think I am, Buffy the Vampire Slayer?" I don't know.
Right.
Right. Her gay best friend, like this is a matter of writing. Her gay best friend is like, I wrote a note. I was like, I get it. You're her gay Mexican best friend. It's like, that's not a character, guy. It's not a character trait. It's not a personality.
Right.
It's like, we get it.
But do you think? Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you think this leaves the door open for a part 2, or like? Is this
certainly.
Okay, that's what I thought too.
They left it on a cliffhanger, even though, I feel like the vampires had some semblance of control over themselves to not, like, I don't think like he would have, and spoiler alert.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay.
Her friend, the one person that talks about doing something afterwards, after we get done doing this, gets killed at the end. But then he comes back as a shock ending. I just don't feel like he would do that. I don't feel like he would come back to her as a vampire, because he knows, firstly, there are other vampires out there who have control over themselves, who can just have jobs and live life and whatever. I figure like, first, they should have known that he was going to come back as a vampire, firstly. Secondly, he probably, because they're not evil once they get turned, they're just hungry. He probably would have known to seek out those guys. And maybe he shows up as a shocking factor at the end of this. And maybe, if they get a sequel, he's like, yo, I need you to hook me up with those African vampire dudes, because I'm freaking out right now. Maybe because I just don't feel like he's just going to come back and hurt his friend. So,
well, yeah. And also too, I mean, I think the other surprise is supposed to be that, according to, remember, he was like, oh, remember the crackhead one was like, they say if you kill him, like everybody that he turns back to normal. I think that's what it was supposed to be, the shock that like Babineau had died.
That's not going to happen.
So you assume that everybody went back, and that by him being bit wouldn't have turned him. And then, like you said, it no. I mean, which again gave me a pop, because I mean, I watched Vampire Diaries and all that, and that's their mythology too. If you kill an original, his whole line
gets back to normal,
dies off. Yeah. So again, I love that. I love the fact that whoever did this, not only just being knowing about black people and black culture, they did their homework on vampires. Like,
Yeah.
I can point out the vampire mythology from almost different, even when they walked in and they were talking about Anne Rice's like,
yeah,
I can pick out the vampire mythology.
They were definitely pulling from very many different sources, and citing their sources too. Like, oh, Anne Rice says this, and then Buffy the Vampire Slayer says this, and this book says that, and it's like, cool,
Right.
we can bring in from all over. Because that's, if you were in that situation, we would go through all the stuff to know what to do with vampires. Honestly, I'd be like, well, I need some steaks, maybe some silver and some garlic. I mean, I know what to do.
Right.
Right.
Like, no worries there.
Yeah.
So
I don't need to go find some white chick to tell me how to fucking deal with vampires.
Facts. So if you're rating Blackest Night, what would you give the rating for Blackest Night?
A solid 4.
I'm right there with you. I'm a
solid.
Man, we're not giving you guys as much diversity. That's why we usually have Jaren here, but I'm giving it a 4 as well. I just loved it. There's so much about it. If you're not a horror guy and you can't put up with B movies and visuals, I would say it's probably a 2.5 at that point if you can't put up with that. But if you can put up with that and you enjoy it, you'll really enjoy that movie. Shout out to Amazon for actually putting it on there and letting it roll. So Blackest Night on Amazon Prime Video.
Never gonna watch it. Especially
Absolutely.